At the same time, you look what's happening in the organic space in these more, let's say, consumer-friendly markets. That's where all the growth is. That's where premiums are available. That's where people are still making good money. So,
what for you is the number one overlooked risk there?
Well, I think it depends on your time frame. I think if you look over a very long time frame, I think the degradation of natural assets, in particular soil degradation, I think it's a huge issue for kind of humankind over the next century. It's one of these slow run problems that you can ignore, especially if you're in a very fertile area with very deep topsoils. But eventually it will come back to bite you. I think though in the immediate term, the bigger risk of the more conventional systems is the changing consumer. The consumer, whether you agree or disagree, wants something different from what conventional ag is selling.
And when you look at the sector, the regenerative agriculture sector, as it's scaling, what are the two most important barriers you see for this sector to reach its potential?
So I think that's probably the biggest challenge still. Just be able to show evidence and data that this can be done at a scale. I think the second is just a more general one for the sector, in that just agriculture of any type is still unfamiliar territory for most investors, and there's just a huge amount of education required to get people used to the dynamics of the sector. It tends to be capital intensive. The returns are lower. You're not going to get your VC private equity 20-25% net IRRs. It's just not possible. But at the same time, you've got a lot of downside protection because you have real assets, you have land, you have biological assets.
And when you look at the barrier of scaling the few pioneers, or the pioneers with a few hundred or few thousand hectares to a fund like SLM, like you're managing now, how did you overcome that barrier to investors?
We took investors to farms in Australia using exactly the same ideas, having done it with great success. And so they could sort of see with their own eyes, this has been done on, let's say, 10,000, 20,000 acres. Well, there's no reason it can't be done on 100,000 or 500,000 acres. We can see a time in the future where we may even try and combine some agriculture and forestry strategies together.
If you could give advice to smart investors that want to get into the regenerative agriculture space, what would be your number one advice?
I think, only invest with teams who have real farmers on board. It's too easy to come up and sell a concept, but the farming is actually really hard, and it's actually hard than managing a fund, for example. And so unless you've got people on a team who've actually done this and have made mistakes and have the scars to show it, then I'd be a little bit wary.